The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. It slides into your life wearing your wife's new perfume, something expensive and foreign that she definitely didn't buy with our joint account. I'm Eddie Morrison, 38 years old, insurance adjuster for Hartfield and Associates, and I've spent the last 3 months watching my marriage rot from the inside out like a Connecticut apple in November. It started with small things. Vanessa coming home late, her yoga classes running longer and longer, new lingerie appearing in the laundry, black lace things I'd never seen her wear, her phone suddenly requiring a fingerprint lock when it never had before, the way she'd flinch when I touched her shoulder, like I was a stranger instead of the man she'd promised forever to 12 years ago. "You're being paranoid," she'd say, flipping every conversation back on me with the precision of a HR director who'd perfected the art of corporate gaslighting. "Are you drinking again? My father was right about you." "Ah, yes. Gerald. Gerald Whitmore, real estate developer, country club regular, and the kind of man who thought old money meant he could treat everyone else like they were still serfs working his land. My father-in-law had made it clear from day one that I wasn't good enough for his daughter. At family dinners, in his imposing colonial house, he'd lean back in his chair, swirling his scotch, and offer his toxic wisdom. "Let her have her fun, Eddie," he'd said just last month, that condescending smirk plastered across his face. "You're not man enough to keep her entertained anyway. Women like Vanessa need excitement. You should be grateful she comes home at all." I'd smiled, nodded, taken another bite of Helen's pot roast, while my mother-in-law watched me with those sharp, quiet eyes of hers. Helen Whitmore had been married to Gerald for 40 years, and somewhere along the way, she'd learned to see everything and say nothing. But I wasn't Helen. I wasn't going to spend 4 decades playing blind. That's why I called Dave. Dave Patterson had been my best friend since college. A IT security specialist who could hack a smartphone with the same ease most people made coffee. When I told him about my suspicions, he didn't lecture me about trust or communication. He just said, "I'll drop off a package tomorrow. Wear gloves. I don't want your prints on my gear." The package contained 3 micro cameras, a GPS tracker the size of a quarter, and a device that could clone a phone's data in under 90 seconds. Dave included a note: "Use responsibly, or don't. I'm not your lawyer." I installed the first camera in our bedroom, hidden in the smoke detector. The second went in the living room, tucked behind a picture frame. The third I saved. The GPS tracker went under Vanessa's car, magnetic and undetectable. For 2 weeks, I watched and waited. I tracked her movements, noting the patterns. Tuesday and Thursday yoga sessions that ended at an apartment complex in the north end of town. Long lunch breaks that stretched to 2 hours. Text messages that came through at odd hours. Messages she'd delete immediately, but not before I'd cloned her phone during one of her rare afternoon naps. The evidence piled up like insurance claims on my desk. Photos, hotel receipts charged to a credit card I didn't know she had. Text messages that made my stomach turn. "Brad, last night was incredible. Your husband really doesn't know what he's missing." "Vanessa, he's clueless, too busy with his boring job to notice anything. My dad was right about him. He's a wet blanket." "Brad, when are you leaving him?" "Vanessa, soon. I'm just waiting for the right time. Need to make sure I get the house." Brad fucking Keller, personal trainer at Elite Fitness, 29 years old, with the kind of sculpted abs that came from having nothing more important to do than count reps and protein shakes. I'd seen him at the gym once. Vanessa had introduced us, actually, with a smile so innocent I'd almost believed it. "This is Brad, honey. He's helping me with my fitness goals." Goals, right. But here's the thing about being an insurance adjuster. You learn to see patterns. You learn that people are predictable, that they make the same mistakes over and over, and that documentation is everything. So I documented. I built my case not just for divorce, but for complete and total devastation. Because if Vanessa wanted to play games, I was going to change the rules entirely. My garage became my headquarters, a space Vanessa never entered because she considered it Eddie's man cave and beneath her interest. I set up a computer, organized my files, and started planning. Dave would stop by after work, bringing takeout and offering commentary. "Jesus, Eddie," he said, scrolling through the text messages. "She's not even trying to be subtle. Look at this. She's telling her friends about him." He pulled up a group chat Vanessa had with her mean girl clique, Amber and Lisa, 2 women who'd perfected the art of looking down on everyone while pretending to be supportive. Amber: "So Brad's really that good?" Vanessa: "You have no idea. Eddie hasn't touched me in months. Not that I'd want him to. When are you dumping him? Vanessa, after I figure out the finances. Dad's lawyer is helping me. I read that last line 3 times. Gerald was helping her plan my destruction. Of course he was. What are you going to do? Dave asked. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. I'm going to serve them all their just desserts, on fine china, in front of everyone they know. Dave grinned. That's the Eddie I remember from college. The one who put superglue in Professor Hendrick's desk drawers after he failed you unfairly. He gave me a C- on a paper I'd cited perfectly. Some injustices demand correction. And this demands a feast. The next phase required more direct action. I needed access to Brad's phone, his accounts, his life. I needed to know everything about the man who'd decided my wife was community property. I followed him for 3 days, learning his routine. Morning workout at 5 a.m., client sessions until noon. Lunch at the same smoothie place every day, afternoon sessions. Then home to his bachelor pad apartment, where Vanessa would sometimes visit for what she told me were evening yoga sessions. If yoga left bite marks, I'd been doing it wrong for years. On Thursday, I made my move. I waited outside the smoothie place, timing it perfectly. As Brad walked out, I accidentally bumped into him, sending his phone skittering across the pavement. "Oh man, I'm so sorry," I said, reaching down to grab it. Brad looked at me, and for a second I saw recognition flicker across his face. But I was just Eddie, boring, clueless Eddie. So he took the phone back with a dismissive nod. "Watch where you're going, dude." "Absolutely. My fault entirely. 90 seconds. That's all Dave's device needed." By the time Brad walked away, I had everything. His texts, his photos, his entire digital life copied onto my laptop. What I found there changed everything. Because Brad wasn't just sleeping with Vanessa. He was part of a group chat with Gerald, my father-in-law and my wife's lover, talking like old friends. "Gerald, how's my daughter treating you?" Brad, "Can't complain. She's eager to please." Gerald, "That's the Whitmore women for you. Her mother was the same way before she got boring." Brad, "You still seeing that real estate agent?" Gerald, "Twice a week. Helen doesn't suspect a thing. The key is confidence. Never apologize. Never explain." I sat in my car, reading through months of messages. Gerald had been cheating on Helen for years. Multiple women, multiple affairs, all conducted with the same arrogant confidence he brought to everything else. And he'd been coaching Brad, giving him advice on how to handle Vanessa, how to string her along. "Gerald, don't let her leave Eddie yet. She'll get more in the divorce if she waits. Trust me, I've seen it 100 times in my business." Brad, "Smart. Plus, why kill the golden goose? She's still paying for my gym membership." They were laughing at me, both of them, planning my destruction, while I paid the bills and played the fool. I drove home, my hands steady on the wheel. In the rearview mirror, I could see my reflection. Same face, same brown eyes, same slightly receding hairline. But something had shifted. The man looking back at me wasn't the one who'd left the house that morning. That man had still believed in fairness, in doing the right thing, in handling this quietly through lawyers and mediation. This man wanted blood, not literally, of course. I'm not a violent person, but I wanted to watch them all burn in the flames of their own making. I wanted Gerald to lose everything he'd built on his arrogance. I wanted Vanessa to feel the same humiliation she'd planned for me. I wanted Brad to understand that actions have consequences. And I wanted Helen to finally see what her husband really was. The opportunity came 2 weeks later. Vanessa announced we were having dinner at her parents' house. A command performance, not an invitation. Gerald had something important to discuss, apparently. "What's it about?" I asked, playing dumb. "I don't know. He just said it was time for a family meeting." She didn't look at me as she spoke, her attention focused on her phone. Texting Brad, probably. "Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself. Try not to embarrass me this time." This time? As if I'd ever been the embarrassment. I smiled. "I'll be on my best behavior, promise." The dinner was set for Saturday night. That gave me 5 days to prepare, 5 days to build the perfect trap. I started with Gerald's business. A little research revealed that Whitmore Properties was facing some serious financial pressure, a development deal that had gone south, loans that were coming due, investors who were getting nervous. Gerald had always presented himself as the successful tycoon, but the reality was shakier than his public image suggested. I made some calls. In the insurance business, you meet a lot of people, lawyers, accountants, investigators. I'd built up a network over the years. People who owed me favors or who simply liked me better than they liked arrogant real estate developers. Gerald Whitmore, said Tom Chen, a forensic accountant I'd worked with on a fraud case. That guy's a piece of work. What do you need? Everything you can find. Financial records, business dealings, anything that doesn't look quite right. This for a case? Personal, but I'll pay your standard rate. For you? Free. I've met Whitmore at charity events. He treats waitstaff like dirt. I'd love to see him taken down a peg. By Wednesday, Tom had sent me a file that was absolutely beautiful. Gerald had been cooking his books for years, not enough to be obviously illegal, but enough to violate the terms of several loan agreements. He'd been using company funds for personal expenses, hiding assets from business partners, and generally operating like someone who thought rules didn't apply to him. This is enough to trigger audits from 3 different banks, Tom said when I called to thank him. If someone were to send this to the right people, Gerald would be drowning in lawyers within a week. Interesting. Hypothetically, who would the right people be? Tom laughed. You didn't hear this from me. I didn't send the files yet. That was the nuclear option, and I wanted to see if I could get what I needed without destroying Gerald completely. Despite everything, Helen didn't deserve to lose her home and security because her husband was a cheating bastard, but I kept the files ready. Insurance, you might say. Thursday night, Vanessa came home late again. I was waiting in the kitchen, a glass of whiskey in my hand. Just one, despite her constant insinuations about my drinking. We need to talk about Saturday, I said. She froze, just for a second. What about it? I want to apologize to your father. Clear the air. I know things have been tense between us, and I think it's time I stepped up and acted like a real son-in-law. Vanessa studied me, suspicious. What brought this on? I've been doing some thinking. About us. About our marriage. About what's important. I met her eyes, letting her see whatever she wanted to see. I don't want to lose you, Ness. If that means making peace with Gerald, then that's what I'll do. Her expression softened. Relief, maybe. Or satisfaction. I think that's really mature of you, Eddie. Dad will appreciate it. Good. I want this to be a fresh start for all of us. She actually smiled at me then, the first real smile I'd seen in months. It was the smile of someone who thought they'd won, who believed their victim had finally accepted defeat. I smiled back and finished my whiskey. Saturday arrived with perfect autumn weather, crisp air, clear skies, the kind of day that made Connecticut look like a postcard. I dressed carefully, khakis, a button-down shirt, a sports jacket, the outfit of a man trying to make a good impression. In my jacket pocket, I carried a USB drive. On that drive was everything: Vanessa's texts, Brad's messages, the photos, the hotel receipts, and the entire group chat between Brad and Gerald. I'd organized it all into a beautiful presentation, complete with timestamps and locations. Dave had helped me set it up the night before. This is either genius or insane, he'd said. Why not both? Fair point. You sure you want to do this? Once you detonate this bomb, there's no putting the pieces back together. The pieces are already broken. I'm just making sure everyone else can see the cracks. We arrived at Gerald's house at 6. The Colonial stood on 2 acres of manicured lawn, all white columns and black shutters, and the kind of tasteful landscaping that cost more per month than my car payment. Helen answered the door, elegant in a cream sweater and pearls. Eddie, Vanessa, come in. Dinner's almost ready. Gerald was in the living room, holding court with a scotch in his hand. He looked me over with his usual disdain. Eddie, glad you could make it. Vanessa said you wanted to talk. I do, sir. I think it's time we had an honest conversation. All of us. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Gerald wasn't used to me showing backbone. Well, good. A man should be able to have an honest conversation. I couldn't agree more. Dinner started normally enough. Helen had made pot roast, Gerald's favorite. We sat around the dining table, the same table where I'd endured years of subtle insults and condescension. Vanessa was relaxed, probably thinking this was the beginning of my surrender. I waited until we were on dessert. Helen had just brought out apple pie when I cleared my throat. Before we finish, I wanted to share something with everyone. Gerald, you said we should have an honest conversation. I think that's exactly what this family needs. Gerald nodded, magnanimous. Absolutely. What's on your mind? I pulled out the USB drive. I brought something to help facilitate that honesty. Do you mind if I use your laptop? I have a presentation I'd like to share. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Eddie, what are you doing? Being honest. Isn't that what we all want? I didn't wait for permission. Gerald's laptop was sitting on the sideboard, already open. I plugged in the drive and pulled up the first file. A text conversation between Vanessa and Brad, complete with timestamps. "And this is from 3 weeks ago," I said, my voice steady. "Tuesday night, when you said you were at yoga." Vanessa's face went white. "Eddie, stop. This is honest." I clicked to the next screen. "Here's Thursday, and this is from last weekend, when you told me you were having lunch with Amber and Lisa." The photos were damning. Vanessa and Brad at a hotel. Vanessa and Brad at his apartment. Messages that left nothing to imagination. Helen had gone very still. Gerald was staring at the screen, his scotch frozen halfway to his mouth. "But wait," I said, warming to my performance. "It gets better. Because this isn't just about my wife's affair. This is about family values. Gerald, you've spent years telling me I wasn't good enough for your daughter, that I wasn't man enough, that I should let her have her fun." I clicked to the next file, the group chat between Gerald and Brad. "Turns out, you were giving advice from experience," and the messages scrolled across the screen. Gerald and Brad, discussing their respective affairs. Gerald bragging about his conquests, Brad asking for tips. And then, the kicker, messages about Helen. And Helen doesn't suspect a thing. "The key is confidence." I watched Helen's face as she read. Something changed there, a hardening, a crystallization of years of suspicion into absolute certainty. "This is insane," Gerald blustered. "Where did you get this? This is probably fake, some kind of—" "It's real," I said quietly. "Every word, every photo, every receipt. I have documentation going back 6 months. For you, Gerald, I have evidence going back 3 years. Did you want me to show Helen the photos of you and Jennifer from your real estate office? Or maybe the weekend trip to Boston with that architect from the Riverside project?" The room was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Vanessa found her voice first. "You spied on me? You violated my privacy?" I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Your privacy? You've been sleeping with your personal trainer for 4 months. You've been planning to divorce me and take everything I've worked for. You and your father have been treating me like a joke while you plotted my destruction. And you're worried about privacy? This is illegal. You can't just—" "Actually, I can. I never hacked anything. I never broke any laws. I used surveillance equipment in my own home, tracked a car I co-own, and received information from people who willingly shared it. Everything here is admissible in divorce court, which is where we're headed, by the way. My lawyer has copies of everything." Gerald stood up, his face red. "You little bastard. You come into my house and what? Tell the truth? Show everyone who you really are?" I stood too, meeting his eyes. "You've spent years making me feel small, making me feel like I wasn't good enough. But you know what? I'm not the one who cheated. I'm not the one who lied. I'm not the one who betrayed the people who trusted me." I turned to Helen, who was still staring at the laptop screen. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. You deserved better. You deserved honesty years ago. I have copies of everything if you need them for your own purposes." Helen looked up at me, and for the first time in 12 years, I saw something like respect in her eyes. "Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate that." "You can't be serious," Gerald said to her. "Helen, this is ridiculous. He's making things up, trying to cause trouble." "Shut up, Gerald." Helen's voice was quiet but absolute. "Just shut up. I'm done listening to your lies." She stood, smoothing her skirt with hands that barely trembled. "Vanessa, Eddie, I think you should both leave now. Gerald and I have things to discuss." Vanessa was crying, angry tears, not sad ones. "Mom, you can't believe this. Eddie's been paranoid for months. He's probably having a breakdown." "Vanessa." Helen's voice cut through her daughter's protests. "Go home. We'll talk later." I unplugged my USB drive and pocketed it. "Thank you for dinner, Mrs. Whitmore. The pot roast was excellent, as always." I walked out, leaving Vanessa scrambling to follow. Behind us, I heard Gerald starting to bluster, and Helen's voice, cold and final. I said, "Shut up." In the car, Vanessa unleashed. "What the hell was that? You humiliated me. You humiliated my father. How could you do this? How could I?" I kept my eyes on the road, my hands steady. "Vanessa, you've been cheating on me for months. You've been planning to divorce me and take everything. You've been laughing about me with your friends and your lover. And you want to know how I could expose it? You had no right. I had every right. You're my wife. Or you were. The divorce papers will be filed Monday. You can't do this. I'll fight you. Your father's lawyer will have his hands full keeping Gerald out of bankruptcy. Did you know your dad's been cooking his books? That he's about to have 3 different banks calling in loans? That his business partners are already suspicious?" She stared at me. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Want to bet your settlement on it? She didn't answer. We drove the rest of the way in silence. When we got home, I'd already had the locks changed. Her suitcases were packed and waiting on the porch. "What is this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "You're not welcome here anymore. I've rented you a room at the Hampton Inn for the next week. After that, you're on your own. My lawyer will be in touch about dividing assets." "Eddie, please, can't we talk about this? We're done talking. We've been done for months. You just didn't bother to tell me." I went inside and closed the door. Through the window, I watched her load her suitcases into her car, her movements jerky with rage and shock. She made a phone call, Brad probably, and then drove away. I poured myself a whiskey and sat in the dark living room, waiting for the adrenaline to fade. My phone buzzed. "Dave. Dude, did you really just do what I think you did?" "Yep. How do you feel?" I considered the question. "Lighter. Like I've been carrying something heavy for years and finally put it down. Gerald's going to come after you." "Let him try. I have enough documentation to bury him 6 times over. And Vanessa, she'll land on her feet. Women like Vanessa always do. But it won't be on my dime." Dave laughed. "You're a cold bastard, Eddie Morrison. I'm a realistic bastard. There's a difference." But the revenge wasn't finished. Not yet. Because Vanessa wasn't going quietly. Over the next week, she launched a campaign to paint me as the villain. She told her friends I'd been abusive, controlling, paranoid. She claimed I'd fabricated evidence. She played the victim so convincingly that some people actually believed her. Amber and Lisa, her mean girl clique, started spreading rumors. At the grocery store, at the gym, at the coffee shop. Everywhere I went, I could feel the whispers. Some people avoided me. Others gave me sympathetic looks that were somehow worse. And then Brad decided to get involved. He showed up at my house on a Tuesday evening with 2 of his gym buddies. Thick-necked guys, who probably thought intimidation was a personality trait. I was in the garage, working on organizing my tools, when they appeared in the driveway. "You Eddie Morrison?" Brad asked, puffing his chest out. "You know I am, Brad. We've met. You need to leave Vanessa alone. Stop spreading lies about her. Stop harassing her family." I set down my wrench and walked to the garage entrance. "I haven't contacted Vanessa since she left, and I didn't lie about anything." I showed her family exactly what she'd been doing. "You humiliated her. You violated her privacy. That's abuse, man." "Is it? What would you call sleeping with someone's wife?" One of Brad's friends stepped forward. "You need to back off, or we'll make you back off." I looked at the 3 of them, young, strong, full of misplaced confidence. A year ago, I might have been intimidated, but I'd spent the last few months watching my life fall apart while building a case for revenge. I was done being intimidated. "Are you threatening me? In my own driveway?" "Because if you are, I should mention that I have cameras everywhere, audio and video. And I have Dave Patterson's number on speed dial. He's already called the police twice about suspicious activity in the neighborhood." That was a bluff, but they didn't know that. Brad hesitated. "We're just trying to talk to you." "No, you came here to scare me." "But here's the thing, Brad. I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of Vanessa. I'm not scared of Gerald. You know why? Because I have the truth on my side. Everything I revealed was real. Everything I documented was accurate. And if you want to threaten me, go ahead. But understand that I will press charges. I will sue you. And I will make your life as miserable as you tried to make mine." I picked up my phone. "So what's it going to be? Are you leaving, or am I calling the police?" They left, but not before Brad gave me a look that promised this wasn't over. I called Dave. "I need a favor. Name it. Brad Keller, personal trainer at Elite Fitness. I need to know everything about him. Where he goes, who he sees, what skeletons are in his closet." "You sure you want to escalate this?" "He came to my house with muscle. He threatened me." "Yeah, I'm sure." Dave sighed. "Give me a few days." What Dave found was gold. Brad wasn't just a personal trainer, he was running a side business, selling steroids to his clients. Nothing huge, but definitely illegal. He was also behind on his rent, owed money to several people, and had a DUI from 2 years ago that he'd managed to keep quiet. "This guy's a disaster," Dave said. "How did Vanessa fall for him? He has abs and tells her what she wants to hear. That's all it takes for some people." "What are you going to do with this?" "I'm going to offer Brad a deal. He leaves me alone, stops spreading rumors, and distances himself from Vanessa. In exchange, I don't send this information to the police, his employer, and everyone in his contact list. Blackmail? Mutually assured destruction. If he's smart, he'll take the deal." I arranged to meet Brad at a coffee shop in neutral territory. He showed up alone this time, looking wary. "What do you want?" he asked. I slid a folder across the table. "I want you to understand the situation you're in." He opened the folder. I watched his face go pale as he flipped through the pages. Photos of his steroid deals, bank statements showing his debts, a police report from his DUI. "Where did you get this?" "Same place I got the evidence about Vanessa. I'm very good at finding information, Brad. It's literally my job." "This is blackmail." "No, this is insurance. Here's the deal. You stay away from me. You stop spreading rumors. You distance yourself from Vanessa. And in exchange, this folder stays private. And if I don't, then I send copies to the police, to Elite Fitness, and to every client whose name appears in your records. Your career ends. You probably go to jail. Your life becomes very complicated." He stared at me, hatred burning in his eyes. "You're a real bastard, you know that? I'm a bastard who's been pushed too far. You slept with my wife. You helped her plan to destroy me. You came to my house with threats. And now you're surprised that I'm pushing back?" Brad closed the folder. "Fine, I'll stay away. But Vanessa's not your problem anymore. If she's smart, she'll figure that out on her own." He left without another word. I sat in the coffee shop, drinking my latte, feeling the satisfaction of another piece falling into place. But there was still one more person who needed to understand the consequences of their actions. Gerald. Helen had filed for divorce 3 days after our dinner. She'd hired the best lawyer in Connecticut, a woman named Patricia Vance, who had a reputation for absolutely destroying cheating husbands in court. Gerald's assets were frozen. His business accounts were being audited. His partners were distancing themselves. He blamed me for all of it. The confrontation came at the country club. Gerald was a member, and he'd arranged for a mediation session with Vanessa and me to discuss things like adults. I agreed to meet, but only in public, with witnesses. The country club was everything you'd expect. Leather chairs, oil paintings, the smell of old money and older grudges. Gerald was waiting in a private room, Vanessa beside him. She looked thinner, harder. The last few weeks had not been kind to her. "Eddie," Gerald said, not bothering to stand. "Thank you for coming. I'm here because my lawyer advised me to listen, so talk. This has gotten out of hand. What you did at dinner, that was vindictive and cruel. You've destroyed my marriage, damaged my business, and humiliated my daughter." I told the truth. If that destroyed your marriage and damaged your business, maybe the problem isn't me. You had no right. I had every right. Your daughter cheated on me. You helped her plan it. You've been cheating on Helen for years. These are facts, Gerald, not opinions. Vanessa leaned forward. "Eddie, please, can't we work this out? Maybe we made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling." "No, Eddie, no. You don't get to cheat on me, plan to take everything I've worked for, laugh about me with your friends and your lover, and then ask for counseling. That's not how this works." And Gerald's face reddened. "You self-righteous little prick. You think you're better than us? You're nothing. You've always been nothing. A mediocre insurance adjuster with a mediocre life. Vanessa deserved better than you. Maybe. But she didn't deserve honesty, respect, basic human decency. Those are pretty low bars, Gerald, and both of you failed to clear them." "I could destroy you," Gerald said, his voice low and dangerous. "I have connections, money, power. You're making an enemy you can't afford." I leaned back in my chair, genuinely relaxed. "You know what's funny, Gerald? You keep threatening me like you still have power, but you don't. Your business is under investigation. Your wife is taking you for everything you're worth. Your daughter's reputation is in tatters, and all of it happened because you couldn't keep your dick in your pants and your mouth shut." I stood up. "We're done here. My lawyer will handle the divorce. Vanessa, you'll get what you're legally entitled to, which, given your infidelity, isn't much. Gerald, stay away from me. If you try to use your connections against me, I have enough documentation to make your life even more miserable than it already is." "You'll regret this," Gerald said. "Maybe, but I doubt it." I walked out of the country club into the bright afternoon sun. My phone buzzed. "Dave, how'd it go?" Gerald threatened me. Vanessa begged. I said no to both. I'm cold. Realistic. "You know they're not going to let this go, right?" "I know, but I'm ready." And I was, because I'd learned something over the past few months. Revenge isn't about violence or drama. It's about patience, documentation, letting people destroy themselves with their own actions while you simply hold up the mirror. The divorce took 6 months. Vanessa fought hard, but the evidence was overwhelming. She'd cheated. She'd planned to defraud me, and she'd done it all while I was paying the bills. The judge was not sympathetic. I kept the house. Vanessa got her car and half of our savings, about $30,000. She'd been hoping for half of everything, but adultery has consequences in Connecticut. Gerald's business collapsed. The audits revealed years of financial misconduct. He didn't go to jail, but he lost his company, his reputation, and most of his assets. Helen got the house and a generous settlement. Last I heard, she was dating a retired judge and looked happier than she had in decades. Brad lost his job when Elite Fitness found out about the steroids. He moved to Florida, probably to start over somewhere. People didn't know his story. Vanessa moved in with Amber for a while, but that friendship soured quickly. Turns out, Amber didn't appreciate having a broke, bitter friend sleeping on her couch. Last I heard, Vanessa was working retail and living in a studio apartment. I should feel guilty about that, about the way everything fell apart for them. But I don't. They made their choices. They decided to lie, to cheat, to treat me like I was disposable. All I did was refuse to accept it quietly. A year after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in my garage, my sanctuary, working on restoring an old motorcycle I'd bought. Dave stopped by with beer and pizza. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "The way you handled everything?" I thought about it. No. They were destroying me slowly, quietly, making me feel crazy and paranoid while they laughed behind my back. I just made sure everyone else could see what they were doing. Think you'll date again? Eventually, when I'm ready. When I meet someone who understands that honesty matters more than excitement. Dave raised his beer. To honesty. To honesty, I echoed. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking beer and eating pizza. Outside, the Connecticut autumn was turning the leaves gold and red. Inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Because here's the truth about revenge. It's not about making other people suffer. It's about refusing to suffer in silence. It's about standing up and saying, "No, you don't get to do this to me. You don't get to treat me like I'm nothing." Vanessa and Gerald and Brad, they all thought I was weak. They thought I'd take it. They thought I'd roll over and let them have their way. They were wrong. And in